I was talking to a colleague who's been doing some training at a client's, and she had mentioned people don't want to be the tattletale. And I thought that was a really important point to address. It's easy to criticize that reaction that people may have. I don't want to be a tattletale. But it's real and it happens, so we need to talk constructively about how do we address that so that a company can provide an appropriate workplace to an employee. So these comments really apply whether you're the recipient of unwanted conduct, whether you are a bystander. We've talked in other videos about how important bystanders are to this equation, or if you're the employer. So here are a few things to think about when it comes to the thought, I don't want to be a tattletale, or somebody else doesn't want to be a tattletale. Number one, the employee, the recipient, does have a right, a legal right, to a workplace free of certain inappropriate behavior. And I know that reporting is more complicated than just saying that, but it is important to remember that. If you're the recipient, that is the case. If you're the bystander, that is the case. And the other piece of that is, this is number two, the company has an obligation to do that. The company has a legal obligation to provide a workplace free of unlawful conduct. And the company wants to do that. You wouldn't be watching this video if your company was not serious about trying to accomplish that. So the company wants it and it has an obligation to do it. I typically advise clients to tell employees they have an obligation to help with that. And that's probably with some people, that's in some of your policies. Or is the company going to let somebody go for not reporting? Probably not, because again, reporting is complicated, but I would view any employee as having an obligation to report such behavior to help the company with it. Ultimately, I think, though, the most important point is this. Don't think in terms of, is this technically harassment? Does this warrant an investigation? Small problems can be dealt with small measures. So if you have a tendency to have a concern with, I don't want him to get fired or something like that, if you deal with something when you observe it at an early stage and it's like, that's not something somebody ought to get fired for, but I don't think she's comfortable with that. That's a really good time, that early stage, if you're a bystander, to say something to the recipient. Say something to the person who engaged in the conduct that might be unwanted. Say something to HR, because that's a time you can maybe address a problem at a small level, which we find in a lot of employment contexts, really most of them. That's the easiest time and most effective time to address issues. So if you're concerned about being a tattletale, if you address problems at their earliest stage, I think you can avoid a lot of those concerns.